but it's so hard to change. It's not like there's a
Looking a good bit at the coverages that are played versus the Ravens in the secondary, and a little bit at the routes that are run against those coverages. Bottom of our screen, the Steelers are playing a version of cover 2. Nick Saban calls this cut when it's played away from the passing strength. So you see 3 receivers to this side, just the one in the person of Bateman at the bottom of our screen. This corner is going to line inside with his eyes in the backfield. Reroute number 1, take anything to the flat. If there's nothing to the flat, then he's going to cover number 1 man-to-man with underneath leverage. The safety to the weak side is playing half field coverage. Mindful if there is a deep cross by Mark Andrews, you can see his helmet to that side, but he is responsible primarily, as I see it, for half field coverage, again, in what I would call cut or cover 2 to this side. We'll talk about the top field coverage. I've identified this as special off. That's a TCU term, or stump. It does have some variation, and ultimately it doesn't matter what you call this. We're really looking at how the Steelers in this case defend a particular formation, in this case trips with a single receiver. In this coverage, we see the strong corner in off coverage. If one runs under or runs a smash, he's going to bail to the deep quarter. He's going to rob the corner route by 2, but he's basically man-to-man on the number 1 route here otherwise. You can see what looks like a diagonal bracket here with this cornerback, between this cornerback and the safety. The safety is really splitting 2 and 3 here, and they're playing, I think, a dangerous game with this crossing route. But the linebacker dropping from the line of scrimmage does a nice job, I think, generally in coverage. You can see the helmet of this safety towards Mark, but very cognizant of the depth of this route. And he comes off just about time you see Mark run an in-breaking or cross rather than a vertical. He then turns his attention to the number 2 receiver, and they get a bracket-type coverage as a result. We mentioned earlier, this cornerback is going to take any route to the flat. After rerouting 1, if there is nothing to the flat, he will play number 1 with underneath leverage. With Mark Andrews running this crossing-type route with the potential for him to turn it upfield specifically, that does hold this safety. You also have this vertical, which likewise holds this safety in coverage. It does open up the flats. The back is kept in to protect. Protection is bad generally, particularly off the left side. If we look at it from this side, you see the quarterback step up, try to escape the pocket. Does not feel right here. Watt coming across. Poor ball security there, but poor protection generally. It's another example of a split field coverage. To my mind, at the top of our screen, we see a pure quarters coverage. One of the main distinguishing parts between, let's say, a pure quarters coverage to one side and, let's say, 2 read is how they handle the out route of number 2. If number 2 goes out immediately, it is the responsibility of this apex player to take him man-to-man. In either case, 2 read or quarters, you are, with this deep safety, reading the route, in particular of number 2. His job, once 2 runs out within the first few yards, as he does here, this receiver, he then shifts his attention to rob number 1. Now, you see this call from the opposite side. I think this is their quarterback on the defense. These guys are very communicative pre-play, during the play, post-play. This guy's going to get chewed out because he does not come off this route quickly enough, even though, if I'm interpreting this coverage correctly, he is doing his job. His job is to rob number 1. I do feel that they have to be, and when I say they, I mean any team, very, very cognizant of these deep crosses by Andrews. That's what's being screamed out here. If I had to identify this coverage versus this 3 receiver side, I've seen this referred to as trio. Again, it doesn't matter what you call it. I think that in large measure on my identifying of these by name, this particular play, I'm off. This is a Mark-centric call. Very little interest in the route that Marquise runs from this deep safety. As we mentioned, you can see he's open. I'm assuming the Bengals have seen something on tape that tells them there is a low likelihood that they will take a shot to the number one receiver outside. And so far as the name given this coverage, I'm pretty positive it's just a Bengals in-house coverage that relates completely to how they view Mark Andrews in these situations. It does have properties of two-man. You might say, isn't this just cover two or two-man? I don't think so. I think this is all about Mark vertical. You don't see any attention to this half field by this safety. And you see a zone drop, eyes to the quarterback, in effect here by this hook player. I'm just giving my best guess that it looks like quarters to the side, a pure quarters read. But certainly there is this, I guess, triangulation of Mark in play here. So I'm sure they don't have that name. And I'm sure as I look at it for the 10th time that this DB does not pay the proper attention to Mark's route that they wish he would. You can see the aggravation post play. There's another thing, when you watch Lamar from this side, there's a pump fake to Pat Ricard that kind of holds 55. Don't know how intentional that is. I think it might be. Or if he's just catching himself here and reloading. If we look at the top view, the Ricard route right there does oddly, and the pump fake does oddly freeze just for a second the weak safety as well. Looks like he's way late. If you watch this in real time, let's say from this side, it's a fraction of seconds. And it's a great throw and a great catch. This is cover 6 or quarter halves coverage by the Bengals. This deep safety is late getting over. This is a beautiful route and catch by Marquise Brown. Absolutely beautiful throw by the quarterback. There's not much you can do about that throw unless you're cheating over on this route. This is a third down call. I think it's a really clever look with a mesh concept being run underneath between Oliver and this receiver, and then a back releasing to the flat. This is in effect, a double screen here run by Mark Andrews, who kind of holds this up in a pseudo hitch. And then he picks off two right here. And I don't understand why they run this concept and the quarterback is not looking to this side at all. I'm not saying he has to be, but it's a really clever design. We talk a lot of times about rubs and picks and third down conversions and where are they. That one looks good. I think the quarterback's reading this deep safety coming downhill to the flat and says, well, I've got one-on-one on the outside. Let me take a shot. But really, really good coverage. I don't think you can blame Lamar on that. That's just great coverage. I think he's reading left to right. I just question why this is drawn up so cleverly, but no attention is paid that way. I'm not sure who to put that on, but this is a great little third down call that works out beautifully. Should you take the backside end of this mesh. It's another nice pass game concept or combination. Coach over at All 22 has been talking recently about teams, 4-3 teams in particular, playing 6-1 looks or 6-1 fronts versus once the Ravens find themselves inside the 30, I think. You see that here. There's this one linebacker by himself. They target that. That's conscious. In terms of the route combos, this is really sweet. I think it's really pretty. You get this double post on the outside, and you get a drag or a shallow route. And Mark's route's really cool too. This very Chiefs-like, this little bender, heads inside, heads outside. I think Lamar's attentive to this safety should he drive. If he drives on Andrews' route, that's a hit to the post. Let's see what he's looking at. I think he's reading that deep safety right there. Yep. And then that's a quick go through for the quarterback. I'll take the most obvious blame here and put it on the quarterback that he overthrows Andrews. You never know. Andrews could hitch this or sit this just a little bit coming out of his break. But the ball's not directly put on him. So the most obvious thing to me, should I want to assign blame, is the quarterback misses him. This is just a really nice concept drawn up by the coordinator, and it just doesn't convert.